There we go. How's it going, John?
Going good. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing fine. I have one item of follow-up from last week. Well, I guess probably you do too. I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear that I did not die snow caving.
That is a wonderful bit of news. Thank you.
Yes.
Good to know that you're not coming to us from the great beyond.
And you didn't. Your roof, I assume, didn't collapse either. So we're two for
not.
two.
The roofer, or not roofers, but the contractors were there and put in a whole bunch of 4x6s and hopefully it will be slowed down.
For me, this is kind of like Netflix binging. I've literally just listened to that just there. So it's like the cliffhanger of will Eric survive and will John be crushed?
That's awesome.
Completely solved.
That's awesome.
Partly because I can see you both.
Yeah, exactly. So let's introduce our friend Carl. Voice from with the cool sounding accent.
Absolutely.
And thanks for coming. You'll be our first official guest. We don't know what we're doing, so welcome.
The accent alone has raised the bar on the quality of the show.
That's right. And also this is a long distance podcast because I'm down in California. Because Carl wouldn't join us last week, so we had to send me as an emissary. To convince the reluctant.
And I guess one more quick update, and we'll put it in I'll put a link in there. After our conversation about AWS IAM permissions and using X-Ray, AWS X-Ray for that, I actually found Netflix has some open source software to help you do that already as well themselves. It's called Netflix Repo Kit or Repo Kit. I don't know if it's Repo or Repo. So an open source package to help you do your IAM least privilege management.
Awesome. Yeah, it is a pain point.
Well, and I like the blog post too, because to visually show what IAM actually looks like, it's a cockpit of a big jet. So there's buttons and knobs and lights and switches everywhere.
I cannot fathom being able to do that well manually. Like that's not something that I can see being even possible to create a good policy manually.
And just to add to the excitement, it claims there's over 2,500 permissions and counting potential. So do the math on how many potential different permission sets you could create out of that.
Yeah, and I bet you that clearly that doesn't include the fact that you can have the resource identifiers as arguments to the permissions, right? That's probably just the core permissions.
Yep, I'm sure that is. Anyways, we'll link to that article as another open source project that is trying to solve that pain point.
Sweet, awesome. All right, cool. Anything else new this week before we kind of dive in?
Nothing off the top of my head. I'm excited to hear what Carl has to say.
Now?
No stress. No
pressure.
Fuss, no muss. No pressure. Yeah, no, we're easy. So, a couple of weeks ago, like when the whole Meltdown stuff happened, like I was trying to give the basics, but I was not knee deep in assembly as others at this table were. So what would you tell us? How would you sort of describe the last almost month now?
It is. It's pretty much the last month. And I'd say it's actually been one of the most fun times I've had at McAfee. I've really, really enjoyed it. Meltdown itself it's been a bit of a roller coaster, because one of the things that was when Meltdown first came out, when Steve was telling some of us before it became public, it was terrifying. It really seemed like this was computer Armageddon. And then as we got into trying to prove that Meltdown was possible, it was very clear that it wasn't really a real world attack, certainly not on its own. And you'd have to mix it in with something else. And the main reason for that was that Meltdown relies on the data that you're trying to steal, normally kernel mode data, being in the cache for the specific CPU core that you're running on. And if it's not in the cache or you're not in the right core, then you just won't see anything. So Meltdown on its own, not really particularly useful, but if you combine it with something else like Spectre, where you can bring some of that memory that is not currently in the cache onto the appropriate cache for the appropriate CPU, then much more exciting. And now we have working code that is for cached memory, pretty much perfect for Meltdown now. And so we've moved on from proving Meltdown into trying to find detection mechanisms, and that's something that that in the past 2 days, 2 different teams have just completed. In McAfee, we've got a version that uses PMU counters to try and detect cache misses, and then another version which I've just done today, literally just today, was detecting TSX aborts, which detects part of the cache flush and reload.
What does TSX stand for?
Good question. It's basically it's transactions essentially. Okay. So the thing that it gives you when you're writing Meltdown is it eliminates the need for you to use exception handlers, because all of the instructions execute in essentially one block, and then if there's any issue or error in that block, then it will roll back to the beginning, and away you go. So it's simplified the writing of Meltdown exploits quite a lot, and it's also improved the accuracy. So for example, I've not really been able to get any decent Meltdown attacks working without using TSX. We have on Linux, but certainly not on Windows.
Transactional synchronization extensions.
Is that what it is?
So transactional memory.
Yes. I Googled, since I don't have a clicky keyboard, TSX Intel bug. That's what it came back with. So I'm going to go with transactional synchronization extensions is what TSX stands for.
How does Spectre help with getting the memory loaded into cache?
It's so the actual details of that, I actually have source code for someone else's approach that attempts to do that. So I actually haven't looked at it yet. So I can't really tell you and it's interesting because for the most part, Spectre and Meltdown share pretty much the same discovery mechanism, which is that you have an array of 256 by page size, and you have all of that flushed out, and then as you discover memory through speculative execution, then you'll have some of those pages touched, or one, hopefully, and you'll be able to, via timing, determine which byte was actually in a kernel buffer, etc. And I've forgotten where I was going with that.
Spectre,
yes. So ultimately, I don't know how Spectre helps. I'll have to have a look at that. Yeah.
So one thing that I guess was also never clear to me is, how do you know what you've loaded into the memory space that Meltdown or Spectre can actually, or Meltdown, I guess, can actually give you access to? How do I load, for example, something I want to exfiltrate intentionally into a memory space that then I can use the Meltdown thing to go get?
So we think, so it's a great question, and we don't have anything that does that today inside McAfee. We know that Alex Ionescu from CrowdStrike, he has a working version, and like I said, this Greg Vish has produced a version which uses Spectre to try and bring memory onto the core, onto the cache for that particular core. In terms of how that works, I'm not really sure. I've personally got an avenue to try and explore, which is to try and use native APIs like ZW Query System Information, which allow you to access buffers and try and read and write to them to see if it's possible to bring memory onto the cache there. But there is no published way at the moment of being able to do that, and it's one of the reasons that there was so little progress made both in terms of McAfee and outside of McAfee initially, because people were just unable to try and find the memory that they want, find and bring it onto the cache for the CPU. They were really struggling with that.
So does that mean that you could use it to dump a region of memory, but then you really got to sort of take that take that off and then analyze it and try and figure out if there's anything of value in there? Essentially, yeah. Because with ASLR, you don't know where LSAS is going to be or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to dump passwords or something like that, or gain access to tokens. Then you've got to have a starting point. And the way in which most of the successful Meltdown attacks were working was that people were populating just vast amounts of virtual address spaces in one process with easy to find strings, and then in another process using Meltdown to try and find those strings later. And it really isn't real world, because they were literally putting gigabytes and potentially gigabytes of data.
Dead beef, dead beef, dead beef, dead beef, dead beef.
Exactly, yeah. And then if you see any of that data coming out as you're walking through,
like, oh, I've got something.
I've got something, it's really not that useful. And so in order to be able to properly test Meltdown, we had to write our own device driver that would take various different buffers that you wanted to just have one copy of, or maybe just a few, and then have it backed by different kinds of memory, and have certain threads touching that memory to bring onto the cache, and other threads flushing it to take it out of the cache, just for us to be able to understand really how viable Meltdown is in the real world. And that device driver has told us pretty much for certain at the moment that its Meltdown is not useful unless you have another technique, which, like you were asking, Eric, that gets that data onto the cache. And so that's something that I'm looking at the moment, but I definitely don't have an avenue at the moment.
Have we seen... We haven't seen exploits yet.
We have some exploits which are, well, some possible exploits from the field. I was talking to Paula just before, and she was saying that they have seen, via GAM, they have seen the Meltdown JavaScript code in the wild. It's being used. So we can certainly take a look at that, and apparently we also have some samples for native.
All right, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun.
So, analyze. Didn't all the browsers patch, or is it like getting the patches out? I guess I don't know. I don't know about Edge or IE.
I know Safari had WebKit had their blog that we actually talked about.
Exactly. It was a great blog.
Chrome, I'm sure. I'm sure they've all patched. Everybody has patched everything they can think of.
Yeah. I think the most important patch, to be honest, is the user and kernel isolation. So on Windows, I'm not sure how they've done it in other, in like Mac, for example, but in Windows, certainly isolating page tables by having a shadow. That works for sure. It doesn't matter whether your Meltdown code is JavaScript based or native. That really does work because you need to have a virtual address that you want to dump. And so you can't randomly start attacking another process. Well, certainly not on Windows. On Linux you can because of the way that the kernel is mapped and so forth. But on Windows, no, you can't. So it really is down to
like the retpoline or something like that. The
that
trampoline, but with return ops.
That kind of stuff. So that's definitely helping that Windows patch, and I haven't noticed any side effects from having it on my machine. Although I have just disabled it so I can do some testing on my dev machine as well.
Do we know how far back the TSX instructions were added?
They are not on 5th gen. So it's definitely on my 6th gen NUC. I've got a Skull Canyon NUC. It's on that. But before that, no, it's not available.
I can tell Eric's actually looking it up right now.
I already had the page. August 2014. Well, no, let's see. August 2014 was when they announced the bug they found. So the Haswell-E, Broadwell CPUs.
Right.
But I don't know when.
So did they disable TSX in those processors?
Looks like they've disabled it, and also in Skylake and Kaby Lake. Or maybe you can turn it on or off. Well, I haven't read. Maybe I'll read up on some of these after we're done here and put one in the show notes somewhere.
Well,
yeah, Skylake is it's definitely in Skylake. That's what all of my NUCs are.
At the end of the day, it's nice to have a couple of options, and easier on the newer things, and maybe another. That's why it's good to have two solutions to kind of play with, especially. I mean, presuming that they're both not limited to the latest processors.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the really great news. Despite the fact there was two teams working on the Meltdown detection at the same time in McAfee. One of them, L3 cache misses, which would work for both TSX attacks and exception-based attacks. And we also have the TSX one that I've done. So we should have all forms of Meltdown attacks covered with both of those.
Nice. What do you think, Eric? What else should we ask Carl while we've kind of got him on the hot seat?
Trying to think. That was actually my biggest question with the whole Meltdown Spectre stuff was how do I actually get something useful in there? Clearly there's got to be some other exploit to load it into some area that you have access to. So
what I will do is, if you want to ask me in a sec, I'll have a look at Greg's code and tell you how he's doing it.
Yeah, I can always just cut this part out. The long delays. I cut out long delays, so we sound a lot more intelligent in the edited cut.
So what they're doing, or what Greg is doing, is he has found the address of a gadget in kernel mode, which he can execute in order to bring some data onto the cache. Now, what he's doing so for Spectre, you would typically execute your conditional branch many times with the correct data, and then you would swap out the target with something like this other gadget, just here. And then this time, that gadget will actually execute speculatively. And so any data that it touches will come onto the cache. And therefore, you can then immediately afterwards perform your Meltdown attack, and hopefully that data won't be evicted from the cache by the time the Meltdown attack runs on it. That's essentially it. So this requires understanding. It's basically, they're using a syscall, so it requires knowing where a gadget would be. So at this point, in order for this to work, then, as far as I can tell at the moment, ASLR has to either be off, or you have to know where the kernel base is in order for this particular attack to work.
Okay.
There's other techniques that you can use to find the kernel base, though, right?
Yes, I believe so. Definitely not an expert on Linux ASLR, which is what this is targeting. But yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I think I actually learned something.
There you go.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
All right. Time for something fun?
Do we want to launch into the something funs? Do you want to go first, John? Carl, do you got one?
I'm thinking.
All right.
So I was very happy to get to watch the Falcon Heavy launch.
That was cool.
That was awesome. We were all actually in a conference room. It was convenient enough that it was scheduled at 3:45 Eastern, so that was right over a lunch break. So other than a brief mistake where I went up to the podium to, basically the person had left their laptop up there and unlocked, and I was like, well, I'll just use their laptop. But as you probably know, Windows L is lock, not go to the browser to let me type in a URL. So I'm like, all right, well, go get my laptop and adapter, plug it in, because the person whose laptop it was not in the room, and he didn't come back for 20 minutes. So I went got my laptop, threw it up there. Got it projecting, and we watched it. I think Steve was geeking out on, telling us what MaxQ was and that kind of stuff. It was great.
The coolest part for me, the coolest part for me, the whole thing, and I'll stop talking if I'm going to steal your thunder here, was the two return rockets that came down simultaneously and landed.
That was an amazing picture.
It looked fake. It was so awesome. You're like, that's fake. I geeked out about that one.
That was phenomenal.
It was like they were running the film in reverse, right? It was so perfectly timed and everything.
It was almost as if they had just been on the two sides of the rocket and they had the exact distance to come back to land. But that was perfect. I saw some pictures tweeted out too about that.
Although they did lose the center rocket fuel what was it?
The core, I think.
Yeah, whatever it was called. The one that was supposed to
The one
land
that was on the ship?
out in the ocean.
Bummer. I actually didn't. There was, the video goes dead.
Right.
And it didn't come back. So I had wondered about that. But how Tony Stark to let me just shoot an electric car up into space with a mannequin, driving and on orbit around the sun, for the next billion years. What?
Yeah.
Incoming asteroid. That's not an asteroid. That's
a Tesla.
That's a Tesla. Insane.
Did you see that the Tesla has been added to the list of satellites that's orbiting?
I did not.
Yes. It is along with various other things like ISS debris and stuff like that. It is
now there's a Tesla.
Yeah, there is officially a Tesla floating around.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is fantastic. Well, that was the cool thing this week, I'd say.
That was actually really cool.
And man, that's going to get us back to the moon, maybe to Mars.
This one, is it supposed to actually move to Mars orbit and then move out beyond? Yeah. Isn't that the target of the Tesla there?
I think they were initially planning to insert it into Mars orbit, and then they decided that they didn't want to clutter the orbit, so they were just get it, prove that we can get as far as Mars.
Got it.
But I mean, even just being able to get out of low Earth orbit is fantastic. Think about that, 27 rockets. To be honest, we were kind of not exchanging money, but odds are of it exploding. It was, I think we were all very hopeful but nervous watching it go.
That was fun. You could sense the genuine excitement in the crowd. I guess it was at Mission Control on the video of actually every next step when they'd announce what happened and the separation. Huge cheers every time. So that's a lot of fun. That's fun.
The media loved it too. It's one of the few times where I think I had 3 devices around me that all had notifications turned on, and every single one of them got something from CNN or MSN or whatever saying, and the Falcon X Heavy is successfully launched. It was all at the same time.
That's fantastic.
It was brilliant. It was a big event.
Please care about space. Space matters.
Yes.
Okay.
So who's next?
So you made me do an experiment last week.
Oh yeah.
What's your thing this week?
I'm not making you do an experiment this week.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I should though. Now that I've set a precedence.
One data point does not make a trend. It doesn't even define a line.
I'll get a line there next time. I spent a lot of time doing some of this stuff on my own. Is repairing my own stuff. I've replaced iPhone batteries, I've replaced screens, and I've invalidated my warranty on a number of different electronics just to repair them. And there's a repair.org, which is kind of this right to repair, stand up for your right to repair, which I've been following and paying attention to legislation that's been going on in various states. One of the things I saw last week, which I thought was really interesting, was a video about John Deere tractors.
I know where you're going.
Right?
Yeah.
The John Deere tractors. And actually, I had heard about this a few years ago. So this has been batting around for a while, but there's a short video, it's about 11 minutes on YouTube, about John Deere tractors and the right for farmers, in the middle of Nebraska to repair their own tractors, because the tractors now are completely run by software. And the video shows, hey, here's my old tractor I learned on when I was a kid. We could tear that down to nothing and put it back together in a week, and it would function just as well.
Mm-hmm.
You would go out, you can't buy used farm equipment without having John Deere come and approve and run the little software patch that says, hey, all right, this now can use this new implement. So I want to link to the video and maybe put a request out there for anybody, hey, pay attention to, or at least put your name on the list for, hey, I vote for letting people repair their own things.
Right.
You know, for whatever reason. So,
well, you didn't actually say it, but I mean, it should be explicit that the reason why John Deere's getting away with this is because of the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And so like their legal standing is that they have put encryption into their vehicles, and that attempting to circumvent the encryption is illegal. And so going in and repairing your own tractor, even though you bought it, it's not yours, because in order to do that, you have to circumvent their encryption. So you have to take it into a dealer.
Correct.
And you have to, you know, only authorized John Deere dealers.
Yeah, and it's not like farmers have tons of extra cash, and these are expensive visits that they can only get done through dealers. And if they have to ship the tractor in, it's not like they drive down to the corner store with the tractor. They got to put it on a big truck, ship it probably several hundred miles. You know, it's not cheap. So
yeah, and it could be for something as simple as a sensor or a light or a
exactly.
You know, and yeah, I mean, I'm also sensitive a little bit too to the fact that, you know, there's timeliness. So yeah, I mean, yeah, cost is probably maybe even the most important. Where, you know, the one guy on the video was saying, you know, it cost him $1,000 to put the tractor up on a trailer and then get it there, and then another $1,000 back, and so he's $2,000 into what could be a $10 repair or something. He could jury rig with something he's got on site. But then the almost less under your control situation is in farming. Like sometimes there are times where you have to do it, right? Make hay while the sun shines is a, you know, aphorism that has entered our lexicon, but really, whether it's on the planting side or the harvesting side, or, you know, sometimes you have a very short window in which to have something happen. And if you've only got one vehicle or capability of doing that, then, you know, your entire season or some huge portion of what, you know, maybe your livelihood is dependent on your ability to get that fixed, not tomorrow, but like tonight, like, you know, by shop light and hook or by crook.
Yeah. And I think as more and more, pretty much everything now has software in it. You know, the whole software is eating the world. If it's a light bulb, you just replace the light bulb. But if it's a tractor,
people might not realize, but some of those tractors, like those are not like even 10, 15, 20. Like you're talking about $200,000, $500,000 vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, like the big tractors these days. Whew, you don't just
no, because it's all run by software and satellites, and I mean it does not function without the software. You know, think of being able to you come, and we're almost there. You come home to your house and you can't get into the house because the house has locked you out.
Yeah,
and you have to call the builder of your home from 20 years ago
house
to
held
come
hostage.
Out. Yeah.
But it's not a crook or anything like that. It's a legitimate business using laws of the United States to hold you hostage.
So, anyways, that one.
Yeah,
that
is
something fun.
That's a great pick though. I made my son watch that video.
Yeah.
Did I hear this? Isn't there like a trade of hacks that farmers are sharing so that they can actually operate?
There is a black market of software from East or Western Europe or Eastern Europe.
Ukrainian hacks. So there's a number of Ukrainian farmers that have hacked the firmware of their John Deeres and are selling it. You know, these are not hackers in hoodies running around, you know, doing this. These are good old boys, you know, with their Ford trucks, driving around with laptops and plugging in USBs and doing this kind of stuff. So
wouldn't you be upset though if just trying that out you bricked your tractor?
I think that John Deere takes a very dim view
I can imagine
of this.
I really
can. Yes. So hey Carl, got something fun? Did you think of something? A Raspberry Pi project. I took up gardening.
Oh, okay.
I went skiing in Tahoe.
Well, so I finally jumped on the Alexa bandwagon.
Oh,
which is
you have a voice snoop in your apartment or your house?
It's brilliant. It's really, really cool. I actually started out with for a strange direction. I wasn't really wanting to automate my home. What I wanted, believe it or not, was an alarm clock, and I thought it'd be really great if I could ask this alarm clock questions. And so I saw on Amazon they just released the Spot, with the little screen and all that kind of stuff. And it's super cool. The one big problem with it, though, the screen is pretty bright. In fact, even on its lowest setting, you can see that thing from the ISS. I'm pretty sure it's really strong. So it kind of keeps me awake a little bit. But then, as I started playing with that, I decided, this is quite cool. I quite like this thing. And so then I went and spent an inordinate amount of money on Philips Hue light bulbs, and then got a Nest thermostat thingy, and now
oh my gosh,
yeah, and then a garage thing, so I can open and close my door and check if it's closed and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really, really fun. I can now see what all the fuss is about, and so that's an ongoing journey of automating my home. And so next thing, probably some cameras. Something like that. I would love to have.
You need to talk to Cedric.
Yes, well, I did. Cedric was key.
Oh, he was enabling. He was an enabler.
Yeah, he was. I mean, at Christmas, when I was back at my parents' house, there's a picture I posted on Facebook where my mum had about 6 different remote controls next to her, and I made a joke about it, and Cedric got back in touch saying, "Oh no, actually, your mum wants this. She wants the Harmony Hub." And then, because he saw the Fire TV control, and he go, "Oh well, so Alexa, there you go. You'd be able to control all of that. That'd be great." And it stuck. It's stuck in my head. I've managed to avoid this automation thing and Alexa and Siri and all that kind of stuff for ages, but yeah, I'm in now. That's it. So, what are your suggestions for really cool things to have in my house that I currently don't have? I think I've said everything I've got. Just got Hue lights, Nest, a garage opener.
Boy, this is probably slightly embarrassing. I have 4 of them in my house. I've got an Alexa, the big one, and it's going off right now.
I don't think that you should be embarrassed by that.
I have 4 Echo Dots and 1 big one, so I guess technically 5.
Oh, good. Okay. Yes, you should be embarrassed by that.
So now
four is okay. Like 4 is
okay.
Like completely and utterly and totally normal. 5's just a bridge too far. It's a dot too far. Yes, I am saying I have 4.
When you find them on Amazon now, you get a deal if you buy 6.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
I bought a 6-pack, and then I started giving them out to people.
Remember the problem that we had with
yes.
trying to give them out. Thank you,
Amazon, for keying them to me before they shipped them.
I think that might have technically been the first time I ever had to actually. I'm pretty sure I didn't speak with, or did I speak with? Like, I actually had to contact Amazon support, technical support to get the, because you bought the pack and I took one and I couldn't get it to register. Wouldn't connect. And it was because they basically had to, on the back end, unregister it from Eric's account and register it to mine.
I thought that was supposed to be turnkey, so you could buy them as gifts.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
Well, but maybe you can if you check a box or something like that. And
I must have missed the box.
or this was a while back, because that was back when you helped me get my second one. So that was that was number 2 years ago.
But my big problem with them now is, all right, so we'll just keep going with the I should be embarrassed about myself. But so I have the little Google Home Mini right next to the Alexa.
Everyone can hear what happens in Eric's house.
And the problem with them is the Alexa I'll ask it to do something and it'll say, I can't connect to the internet. I'm having problems connecting to the internet. Open the Alexa app. On 2 different of them, half the time they're not connected, or I need to pull the power and put the power back in. I need to troubleshoot them. But what's nice about having the Google Home Mini, which had a deal over Christmas, so I got some of those, is if Alexa can't answer, Google will. And I can just ask, so Alexa, turn out the office light. I can't right now. Hey, Google, turn off the office light. So
the funniest thing you just said is, quote, I got a few of those. So I just want to point out that yes, you have clearly you have dueling voice listening boxes, but also.
And it actually just turned my lights off. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hey Google, turn my lights back on. Oh, just the office lights. Oh crap! I'm going to turn all the lights in the house on. Hey Google, turn on the office lights.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Alexa, turn on the office lights.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's my problem. One will fail, and the other will succeed.
But it's not deterministic.
No, sometimes it's the Echo that fails, and sometimes it's the Google. Whatever.
Look at you not saying Alexa.
No,
Well
I'm
done.
avoiding saying Alexa, and I'm glad I have headphones on, or you would be saying, because the little ring light keeps loading up.
All right. What else to do? They also have the smoke detector.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of nice for the Nest.
Okay.
I do like that, and they work really nice as night lights.
Oh.
So they double as night. So if you get up in the middle of the night and you walk by them, it's not bright, but as a little LED comes on, it detects motion.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. You're already got more stuff than me though. So if you got a garage door opener and all the Hue lights, I just have the plugs. So I have to plug in like lamps and stuff like that, and then I can say, turn on my piano light, turn on my. I literally have a piano light, a puzzle light, and the living room lights.
Oh, okay.
Those are my only three. So I'm not cool. I'm not as cool as Eric.
How many connected devices do you have then?
In the house, it's over 50.
50.
And that includes all the little Raspberry Pis I have running around the house. And yeah, I have a problem.
See, I don't. I look like I don't have a problem when I stand next to Eric.
Didn't I hear that? Was it Matthias has got
Matthias.
over 100?
He is.
Yeah,
he is the paragon. Of,
he makes me look like an amateur.
His entire house is. He invited us. You weren't there.
Yeah, I was.
Did you go?
Yeah.
Got to go? Nice. He took us. He built the house. I mean, he had the house built, and from the ground up, he built it for automation. So like everything. I don't know how many devices, but I think it's actually posted. I think he did. Like he did it. He got interviewed for a couple articles and stuff like that on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's. Matthias puts Eric to shame.
Yes.
Like Eric, you've got some.
I got some catching up to do.
You got some Matthiasing to do.
So what do your Raspberry Pis do then, Eric?
Mostly run temperature, humidity sensors around the house. I've got one that's hooked up to the garage door, so I can. I don't actually have it actuate the garage to open and close. I just have it be able to tell me whether or not the garage is open or closed. So if I go somewhere. Yeah. However, that Raspberry Pi is currently on the fritz and hasn't reported since for like about a week. So I have some debugging to do when I get some free time on that one. One of them is running a weather station. My boy loves weather, so he got this weather station for Christmas, and we've got it hooked up to Weather Underground. We're going to learn to program in Python. He's taking a technology class in 6th grade now, and he said, we're learning some language called, I think it's a snake. I'm like, Python? So yeah. All right. Let's learn Python.
All right, don't scare him. Don't make him run away screaming.
No.
Gotta ease him in gently.
That's right.
That's awesome. All right. Well, this one's gone a bit long. Shall we wrap? What do you think?
Yeah, we'll cut a whole bunch of it out.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I think this is the longest we've done.
All right. Good to go.
Good stuff. That was fun. Thanks for coming, Carl.
That was fun. No worries, mate. That was that was good. I like that.
See, it's easy.
Yeah.
We just chat. All right. Talk to you later, Eric.
Yeah. Cool. See ya.
Cheers,
Bye.
mate.